I'm Rachel Marchant and I am a portfolio GP locally, based at a surgery in Lee, and that is my current list of roles. Okay, so you clearly don't have to have that many roles to be a portfolio GP, and some of these roles are unpaid. So there is a mixture in there of things that are clinical and seeing patients, things that are non-clinical but paid, like CCG work, that sort of thing, and things that are completely unpaid voluntary roles, like some of the RCGP work is unpaid, and certainly things like Next Generation GP are unpaid roles that are nice things to do rather than things you do to earn money, if that makes sense. And these are roles I've held previously. So I've been a GP for nearly 5 years, so not that long really, and I've done a few things that I've sort of given up along the way. So for a little while I was the RCGP ambassador for Mid and South Essex STP. Basically just ended up with too many jobs and had to drop something, so that's how that one went. Out of hours I did for a long time, and I did a lot of out of hours straight after qualifying, which is was quite a good experience. It's quite a nice thing to do a bit of, but again, as other things have come on board, I just ran out of time basically. And I did, the practice I work at now is the practice I did all my training at. So I was there as an F2, I was there as a registrar. And I did get to a point where I was like, I think I need to see what else is out there. And I left and I went to another practice for 3 months and then I came back. So I didn't last very long anywhere else. So it is quite nice there. And then the care home project was a kind of specific piece of work around doing some advanced care planning in care homes that I did briefly and then stopped. Okay. So that's what I've done. This is some of the things I think are advantages of a portfolio career. So the flexibility is amazing. So I do 2 days a week in practice, which are not flexible really. Those are pretty much fixed, those 2 days. So I see patients a Tuesday and a Thursday, and I try not to move those days unless there's a really good reason to. But the other 3 days, I'm pretty flexible. A lot of the other roles, some of it can be done from home. The hours are quite flexible. I can do things like go to the kids' sports day and that sort of thing around other jobs, so it works quite well from that point of view. I really like the variety. When I first finished, I did a bit of out of hours and I did 8 sessions in general practice for a very short time, for about 6 months, and really didn't like the lack of variety and found it was quite stressful actually to see patients all day, every day. I think the fact I've been able to kind of pursue interests, so gradually I've bought a portfolio which is more and more cancer and end-of-life care related, and that could be anything. So it doesn't have to be cancer and end-of-life care. It could be that you've got an interest in dermatology. It could be that your interest is more management, leadership, something like that. So there's loads of options out there, but having the flexibility to be able to take those opportunities is really helpful. I find it less stressful than clinical work to do the variety. Some people would find it more stressful. Again, that depends on you and what you like. And I think the networking opportunities and the support network you get by having lots of different roles is really interesting as well. It means you've got lots of different people who do lots of different things who you're connected to, a bit much wider than your own surgery if you work in one surgery, which again has advantages and is a nice thing. And you have quite a lot of opportunity to influence things, whether that's kind of local changes or national changes. Through some of these roles, you can get quite a lot of influence to make things different. Disadvantages, obviously there are pros and cons of that kind of way of working. So some of the roles are not paid, and a lot of the roles I took early on certainly either weren't paid or were paid for a lot less work than they were. And sometimes you have to do a bit of voluntary or lower paid work in order to build your CV and to be able to take some of the better jobs in that area, particularly if you're trying to build a clinical interest that you haven't got a huge amount of experience in. It's quite helpful to get a job, even if it's not the best one or not the best paid, and then you can build on that from there. Balancing it can be tricky. Having all those different jobs, you do sometimes find that there's a day in March where 4 different people have asked me to do something in the same slot. Well, obviously I can only choose to do one of those, and that balance can be difficult. And I think I make that particularly difficult with the number of different roles, but there will always be, if you've got more than one thing, you have to weigh up which is the priority on which particular time, and that's not always easy. There is, and workload's not evenly spread. So I have weeks that are crazy, and then I have weeks where I've got a couple of days off. And that's just the way it works out. So although officially you do, so most of these roles are a sessional rate, so they're a session however often, so a session a week or a session a fortnight. But they don't work out like that because people want you to do a whole day of something and then you don't need to do anything, or you do lots of little bits not joined up. So it just varies. There's no set pattern to my week, so I can't say Thursday I'm always off, and I can't say Friday I can always do something at this time, because it all varies. And I think that's more common if you've got a sort of portfolio than it is if you're just seeing patients in a practice, where you can probably say, I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I always have Friday off, or whatever. And I think it can be hard, the kind of keeping everyone happy, balancing all those bits. And the patient continuity is something that sometimes is difficult. Patients do sometimes moan at me that they can't get back in to see me because I'm only there 2 days a week. But actually lots of GPs are part-time, and that's fine, and they just have to live with it, really. So in terms of options for portfolio careers, there are really literally endless options. So things like leadership and management are options. Working with the LMC or CCGs or the RCGP, they all have roles, they all have kind of leadership roles, and then there are other clinical roles within some of those as well. Clinical interest, basically anything you are interested in, you could develop as a portfolio career. You have to find someone who's willing to pay you, and you have to find a way of making that fit and work, but there's no reason you couldn't do it. Military work is definitely an option for GPs. Prison service work is also an option, as is out of hours. There's the GP health service, which provides healthcare to GPs, and again, they obviously use a combination of GPs and psychiatrists to provide that service. So there are, and coaching, mentoring type things as well, and there's obviously private providers, insurance, medicals, that sort of work too. So there are, and that's just the ones I could think of off the top of my head. So there are literally endless numbers depending on what you want to do. This is just a start as to where to look for opportunities. So I do think word of mouth is a good way to look for opportunities, particularly if people know you're interested in something. So I think once people knew I was interested in cancer, then you get people actually just telling you, well, there's this job that's come up and it's interesting and maybe you'd be interested. CCG newsletters, actually most jobs do go out through your CCG newsletter, so if you make sure you signed up to that, you can get that information. Special appointments on the BMJ careers webpage. So special appointments tends to be all the interesting jobs. So there's a GP jobs section, which is jobs for GPs, but the special appointments thing often has more interesting bits you might be able to do alongside in it. NHS jobs, again, lots of NHS organisations will advertise through their RCGP website, both for their jobs, but also they have a careers bit. Social media is actually very good for picking up job opportunities. There are lots of them will advertise through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. And create your own. Go and talk to your CCG or to a surgery about what you want to do and whether that is something that they could buy into if there's something particularly you're interested in. Okay. I'm happy for you to ask me anything, basically. Have any of you got any questions? No, my list is a bit out of control at the moment. At some point it will get culled a bit. I think a lot of these roles were aimed at first 5 GPs, and I'm about to finish my first 5 years, and therefore some of them at that point will sort of naturally come to an end. So I've tried to not let that mean that I don't take new things, because I know they're going to come to an end. So it is a bit of a crazy list right now, but that will level out. Yeah, well, I think any sensible surgery at the moment, there is a shortage of GPs. It's a job hunter's market. They would be silly not to solve half their problem with half a solution rather than and wait for someone who can do 8 sessions, because no one wants to do 8 sessions at the moment. Most people want to do less, and actually any sessions is helpful. I think the thing I do try to do, which makes that feel a bit fairer, is that I do prioritise the surgery on surgery days. So on the days, they chose the days I work, So I worked Tuesday and Thursday. That was their choice. When I went back from having left and come back, I said to them, I'll do any 2 days. And Tuesday and Thursday was when they were shortest, so that's what they wanted. Actually, that's quite nice days, and that's great. But they did choose. And I don't, like I say, unless there's a really good reason, something that I really can't move, and then I talk to them, but they always get first dibs. So if they say, no, actually you can't have that Thursday off, then I don't, and I will always be there. And I think because they know that the days I do, I'm reliable and I'm there, they're happy to support the other stuff. But also remember, you bring them stuff from that. So the surgery you're working in should stand to benefit from your skills in whatever else you've done. So whether that is management, whether it's you know what's going on at the CCG, whether it's that you've got more end-of-life care experience, then you bring that back to your practice. So they should see it as an advantage as well as a thing they have to work around, if that makes sense.
Generally the interview...
In terms of interviews for surgeries, you mean? When you're trying to get your surgery work? I think most surgeries see it as an advantage. I think if you can genuinely say, I'm going to be here 4 sessions, 6 sessions, I've got a real interest in end-of-life care. So I lead on end-of-life care for the surgery, and I don't get any extra pay for that. But that's something I bring because I'm interested, that goes with them having to live with the fact I've got other things going on as well. So it's a two-way conversation, and I think I wouldn't be put off telling them that you're interested in things and that you want to do other things outside of working there.
It does restrict you in a sense of being unreasonable.
No, and I think that has to be reasonable, but perhaps they can't accommodate that, and perhaps the answer is then that actually you don't work a Tuesday for them and you do something else with that morning that is more flexible, that isn't patients. I do my clinical work as 2 full days for exactly that reason, that I think it's very hard to be trying to get somewhere else after clinical work. And that's not to say people don't do it, because people do pick up kids on time and all sorts of things, but I make sure my kids are covered and that my clinical days are just clinical. And if I have to do something in the evening, so if I'm doing a teaching session or there's something going on in the evening, quite nicely I have the option to say I'll work an early, so I start at 7, which means I finish earlier and I can be more guaranteed to get away at the end of the day. So we 2 of us see patients from 7 every day, so we do extended hours, so it's extra money for the surgery. So we do all our extended hours in the morning. So we all do 7 o'clock starts, but no one does any evenings. Yeah, so you can do them whenever you want. Yeah, so our...
Isn't the extended hours to provide cover from 8 to 8?
Sorry?
I thought extended hours had to provide cover from 8 to 8, so covering the 6:30.
You have to provide a certain number of appointments.
Doesn't matter what.
No, so there's a difference between extended access and the 8 till 8 cover, because our 8 till 8 cover is provided by a hub. So these are just extended hours, like commuter surgeries.
So for the Saturday, that kind of...
Yeah, so we don't do Saturdays and we don't do those hours. So we just do a 7 o'clock in the morning. So we could provide those hours on the end of the day. So lots of surgeries start at 9 and they do their extended hours at the end, but it just depends, yeah. Okay. Anything else? No? Happy? Thank you.